All right, West Virginia fans, the weekend has come and gone. We are officially under 5 weeks till the first game. Fall camp opens up this Wednesday. So Rich Rodriguez is set to meet with the media multiple times throughout camp. So I know I'm excited about that to hear from him and get this thing rolling. There's been a lot of talk about this team and all the new players that we've had this season. So it's time to see what they have and time to get ready towards Robert Morris. So super excited about that. In today's video, I want to go over the receivers and who's going to break out in the receiving room this year. I think there's a lot of potential in the receiver room. There's a ton of guys, and it's one of the camp battles that I think is going to be most interesting this camp. So I'm going to highlight a few of those guys and what they bring to the table and who I think are going to make plays for the Mountaineers. I put them into different tiers because there's so many. It's really challenging to do because there's so many newcomers, but I'll explain the tiers as we go. I'll highlight the players, show their stats, and then we'll talk about a few other things, go live, see if we have anyone come on and comment. Before we start, again, we've had a lot of momentum. We're over 200 subscribers, so share with your friends and definitely like and subscribe to the show. Without further ado, let's get into this list. All right, so let's talk about the returning standouts first. So up first, I'm going to highlight is Rodney Gallagher. Rodney Gallagher, we've mentioned quite a bit on this show. 10 catches year one, 26 catches in year two. He was a four-star recruit just up the road in Pennsylvania. I think that if they can utilize this guy in the correct way, he can have a big season for the West Virginia Mountaineers. Super excited what he can do. I'm glad he's not playing defense anymore. I know Neil Brown had him playing some nickelback last year and things like that. He definitely belongs on the offensive side of the ball. So if they can hand him the ball in the backfield or get him screen passes or really just let him do his thing at receiver, I'm really excited to see what Rodney can do this year. Up next, we have Jaden Bray. And I think it was a good sign when we saw Jaden at Big 12 Media Days. You know, he didn't have the season that he wanted to do, was riddled by injuries, only 2 catches for 88 yards last season. But if you remember, at Oklahoma State, he had 30 balls caught, 382 yards, and 2 touchdowns. One of those touchdowns is actually in Milan Postcar Stadium against West Virginia. He had a good game that game. So I think that's a good sign, though, to see Jaden at Big 12 Media Days. I think that's a sign that he had a good spring and that they can rely on him. And I'm really glad that he stuck around with the West Virginia Mountaineers. And then last returning standout that I want to highlight is Preston Fox. Preston Fox has had a really nice career at West Virginia. He was a walk-on, and he's really made his time useful. In 2023, he had a good season, 26 balls caught for 368 yards and 2 touchdowns. Last year, again, one of those guys that was battling some injuries, only had 12 balls caught for 131 yards. I'm glad to see him back, though. He's done some good things in the return game. He's a good locker room guy, and he's consistent. He has consistent hands, right? And he's shown that he can be reliable. So even if he doesn't start, he's a nice depth piece to have because he's proven that he can make plays in a Mountaineer uniform. So I'm super excited to have Preston Fox on the squad for sure. Let's go down to the next guys. And the next tier I'm going to do is the top newcomers tier. So if we look at the top newcomers, I'm going to start off the top newcomer list with Cam Vaughn. The reason is he's already been in Rich Rod's offense. He's going to be a true sophomore this year, caught 48 balls for 803 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's a really nice freshman season. He was considered the fastest guy on Jacksonville State's team last year. So we need explosive playmakers, and I think that's what you have with Cam Vaughn. I think you can pencil him in as a starting receiver. Maybe not as a starter right away, but you can definitely count on him to make some plays in some fashion. Now, I think he's going to be a starter. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I really like this kid. He's fast. I like Cam Vaughn. The next guy I want to highlight that's really interesting is Oron Singleton coming over from Eastern Michigan. This guy caught 64 passes last year for 639 yards and 2 touchdowns, averaged 10 yards a catch. This guy's an explosive wide receiver. He's going to be in a battle, so he's going to have a good camp, but numbers don't lie. I don't care if you were at Eastern Michigan or where you were. 64 balls is 64 balls. So Oron Singleton is a guy to watch out for that's a newcomer for the West Virginia Mountaineers. Then the last guy that we want to talk about for top newcomer is Jeff Weimer. Now, again, we've talked about him numerous times. He has that waiver lingering over his head. I'm not even sure if Jeff Weimer is on the official website right now for West Virginia, truthfully. I know he was working out with the team and things like that, but I'm not sure what's going to happen. That's going to be really interesting with no official waiver if he's even going to see camp this week. So that's one thing that needs to be asked of Rich Rod, I think, at the opening press conferences. What is the deal with these waivers? Are these guys practicing? Can we rely on them? If he does get cleared, I like this guy's chances to see the field. Again, 75 balls, over 1,000 yards receiving, and 6 touchdowns. I like those numbers. So those are the top newcomers that I see for West Virginia coming into the season. They should be some good players. Let's look at the next tier that I have, which is the don't sleep on tier, right? So let's talk about these guys, right? So the first guy that we want to highlight here is Christian Hamilton. He was a 4-star prospect out of high school with a 90 overall grade. Really like what this guy brings to the table. I think there's some intrigue here. Got off to a slow start a little bit at North Carolina, only catching 3 balls for 20 yards in his first season at North Carolina. And then the second season, he had 7 receptions for 159 yards and a touchdown. So the numbers don't jump off the page, but the fact that he was a 4-star prospect and highly coveted out of high school, and he's played Power 4 football in some capacity, I don't think you can sleep on him. I think if he has a good camp, he could make some noise. The other guy that's coming in is Justin Smith-Brown. 54 catches, 749 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Averaged 13.9 yards a catch. Like this guy's ability. I think he's pretty fast. So I know they're looking for some speed in that room. So Justin Smith-Brown, with those numbers, I think can make some noise at camp. So don't sleep on him. And then the last guy for the don't sleep on tier, I would say, is Cyrus Trough. 36 balls caught, 409 yards, and 5 touchdowns. One of those touchdowns last year was actually against the Pitt Panthers when he played for Youngstown State. So Cyrus is a in-state kid, so I think people will like that. So don't sleep on him because I think he can make some plays as well. And then let's go to this next one, the need good camps tier. Logan Ramper's an interesting one. I wasn't sure if I should put him as a top newcomer or if I should put him in need good camps. If it wasn't for the D2, leveling up from D2 in Shippensburg, I probably would have had him as a top newcomer. But based on him making the jump from D2 to D1, I would probably say he's in the needs good camp tier. He's listed on 24/7 as 6'4", 215. So that's a big wide receiver, a big frame. I think on the school website, though, he's only at a 6'2" height. So that's kind of interesting to see where he's at. Transfer portal rating was a 3-star, 86 overall grade, 166 wide receivers. So again, keep an eye on this guy because I think Logan Ramper could make some noise at camp. And then the other guys are Jared Bowie and Jarrell Williams. Jared Bowie is another in-state West Virginia guy. Caught 13 balls for 207 yards last season at Jacksonville State. 3-star transfer coming out of the portal. And then Jarrell Williams is someone, again, 3-star recruit, has been in the program for a while. He's the class of 2022. Hasn't seen the field that much, but I know that he's still there. And if you're still at the West Virginia roster, that's probably a good thing because they definitely cut some players and players definitely walked on their own. So again, but he would probably be someone that needs to have a good camp. Next up, we have Jordan McCants, another one of those Jacksonville State players. Caught 15 balls for 146 yards. So he's going to have to improve his numbers if he's going to make some noise in this wide receiver room because it's pretty crowded. And then the last 2 guys are just freshmen, right? Tyshawn Dews and Amari Weaver, 3-star players. I think in this day and age, it's really, really challenging for guys to break through as freshmen just with the climate and how things are. Because of the transfer portal, you can just get guys. So I think it's going to be harder and harder for true freshmen to see the field unless you're like a phenomenal player. Now, it's happened before, right? Look at a guy like Traylon Ray or CJ Donaldson. They found a way to get on the field as a freshman. But again, I think it's just going to be really tough. So those are the tiers. There's a few other things I wanted to talk about tonight before we kind of get off here. And I want to talk about some other news that happened in West Virginia land as far as some pro players, right? So this is really unfortunate news. Bryce Ford Wheaton, special teamer for the New York Giants, ruptured his Achilles in practice and is going to miss the entire 2025 season. I feel so bad for Bryce Ford Wheaton because it's the second time that he's had to deal with a season-ending injury, and it's only his 3rd year in the league. You know, it kind of reminds me of that like Kevin White scenario where, you know, Kevin White just had a really tough time staying on the field And plus, I'm a Giants fan, so I love seeing Bryce go out there and make plays. I know last year he had a big returning block touchdown against the Cleveland Browns for a win. So that was super exciting. So it's definitely tough to see Bryce Ford Wheaton be out with an injury. So you can see he's staying positive with his tweet here, but definitely tough to see Bryce not being there. Next news I want to talk about is Deion Sanders. So Deion Sanders tomorrow is set to him and his medical team will hold a press conference on Monday to talk about his health and things like that. He hasn't been around the team since spring ball, so that's a little concerning. So I hope Deion Sanders is okay. I got to be honest, though, I'm not sure, with his health and his kid no longer being there and the hype kind of being gone from Colorado, I'm not sure how much longer he's going to stick around, right? If he has a tough season this year and he's really facing these medical issues, it could be this season and done for Deion Sanders. So keep an eye on that news conference tomorrow. Hopefully he's okay. Hopefully we get good news on him, but be on the lookout for that because that's coming down the pike tomorrow at a press conference. Let's talk about some other former Mountaineers making some news this week. Packers signed cornerback Garnett Hollis. So he played at Northwestern for all those years and made the hop to West Virginia last year. Truthfully, he really struggled last year for the West Virginia Mountaineers. I thought he was going to have a lot better season than he did, but he does bring a lot of size and versatility to his game. So the Packers are definitely going to take a flyer on him. I know a lot of Packer fans are upset, though, because Rasul Douglas, former West Virginia Mountaineer and himself, also is unsigned right now, and a lot of people want Rasul Douglas signed. So that's going to be interesting to see if Hollis can make some noise in camp. It'll also be interesting to see if Rasul Douglas gets picked up by anyone after that. Other former West Virginia news, former West Virginia receiver Winston Wright got picked up by the Browns. I'm not going to lie, I was super disappointed to see Winston Wright not stick around with West Virginia. I really liked his explosiveness. He had a lot of things in his game that I liked, but unfortunately, he chose to hit the transfer portal. Things like this are going to be interesting moving forward, who West Virginia claims in the NFL, because he's not the only one. Caden Prather is also in Buffalo Bill camp right now. Caden Prather was a 7th-round draft pick. So do you count guys that are in the NFL to be on your roster as a West Virginia player? That's a tough one. If they didn't graduate, but they played 3 or 4 years, do you still count them as a West Virginian in the NFL? Some other news around the NFL camps opening up this week. You can see the list over here. Dante Stills, Davis Hills, Cole Taylor, Will Greer, Wyatt Milam, Geno Smith, Bryce Ford Wheaton, Fertoma Moba, Beanie Bishop, Zach Frazier, Doug Nestor, Colt McKivitz, Garrett Green. All those guys are going to be in training camp. It's going to be interesting to see how many of those guys ultimately make NFL rosters. I know West Virginia, as of late, has had a really tough time keeping guys in the NFL. We haven't had as many draft picks. So if we are going to improve as a brand, we need to get more guys in the NFL. I think there's a few guys that we can get into the NFL this year, but these numbers definitely need to improve if West Virginia is going to improve as a football program. The last news I want to share that kind of caught my attention was the Kansas Jayhawks' new field. It looks pretty sick. Kansas has definitely taken football more seriously. They used to be an afterthought, but after hiring Lance Leipold, they've made a commitment to football. So as you can see here, they've definitely made a commitment to football. The stadium looks great. West Virginia is going to play there in week 4. Former West Virginia Mountaineer Trey Lathan is also going to be on Kansas for that team. So fun stadium to look at there. And that is all I really have. So again, another short show, only a 14 to 15 minute show. Wanted to show the receiver room. I think there's a lot to like there. Again, football camp opens up this Wednesday, so that's exciting. We're looking forward to hearing what Rich Rodriguez and some of the other players have to say. That's all I have. Again, if you are a Mountaineer fan, please like and subscribe. Let's go Mountaineers. We'll talk to you next time.